Hands
angle
from
there,
Nathan,
nice,
big
nice
left kick. Here comes Jordan
come back with those hands again.
Hey yo, it's your boy Shane here. Before we start today's episode, we have a new sponsor on board. So getting behind the Combat Chat podcast now is Manscaped, who are the best in the world for men's below the waist grooming. Their products are precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's performance package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle, is here. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free shipping worldwide with the code COMBATCHAT, all one word. If my maths correct, that's about 8 million balls. Okay, fellas, let's be honest. There's always that story of us trying to trim the hedges, mow the lawn when in the younger days, but even probably now, because we don't want anything scraggly down here. We don't want our budgie smugglers to look like they're tarantula smugglers. Okay, we've got to keep it fresh. Okay, and this is where the lawnmower 4.0 comes in place, and I've used it myself. And it's great. I got nothing but good things to say about it, actually. So, I'm going to kind of keep everything pristine from now on because Manscaped's on board. And it doesn't stop there. You also got the Weed Whacker, which is good for the nose hairs, the ears hairs. You also have the ball deodorant, the ball toner. So after you smooth it and kind of moisturize some of them, they're going to be smooth as eggs. Who doesn't want to touch them after that? For real. So in saying that, it's time to take care of yourself. Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with the code COMBATCHAT, all one word. So remember, to get 20% off, free worldwide shipping, put in Combat Chat at manscaped.com. And remember, unlock your confidence and always use the right tools with the job with Manscaped.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Combat Chat podcast. Just me today, but you didn't have me last week. I had to bow out. So hopefully a break from me was a bit refreshing and you're happy to see me. Couple of updates. Last week you would have heard Jordan Fielding on the podcast. That was a good episode. I just got to listen in as a fan. We were doing commentary last week on the Yokkao Next Generation show at SRG Thai Boxing, hosted by Lewis and team. That was a really good night of fights. Enjoyed being back in the booth. Australian promotions, if you're looking for a commentator, I'm happy to do a little bit more. I've been enjoying commentating this year, so hit me up if you want to chat. Would love to do more. Couple of shows in the calendar for the rest of the year, but I've got plenty of time, so let's talk. However, we're back with a guest this week, so I won't waffle on for too long. Joining me via the internet from beautiful Phuket, Thailand. How are you, Sam Cassidy?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. How is the weather over there? Is it a little bit better than what we've been seeing here in Sydney town?
Yeah, I'm struggling today, mate. It's a little bit too hot, if I have to be honest. So I've decided to just stay indoors for the next hour or two with the aircon on.
Yeah, I would do the same, but my skin's not designed for the sun.
Yeah, I'm made for it. And even now I'm still like, nah, it's a little bit too much.
How hot is it over there this time of year, actually?
So we're just slowly coming out of what they call the wet season.
Yeah.
So it gets to about 30 degrees every day, but it's just piercing sun. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Humidity-wise, it's just chaos, I just walk out the door and it looks like I've been training. I'm just sweating.
Yeah, I mean, still, I'd rather that than what we've been having here recently. So.
Yeah, it's a pretty good problem to have.
That is right. So, of course, based full-time out of Paradise at the moment, so pretty keen to get into what a day over there looks like for you. But the first question that we always ask a first-time guest here on the show is give us your background. So last time I saw you in person, I think was down in Melbourne for Rebellion in December. Now you're back over in Phuket. So give us a little bit of your background. How did you get involved in Muay Thai, in combat sports in general, and how did you end up living the dream over in Phuket?
Yeah, so mine was a bit of a different one. Like when I was younger and stuff like that, like I was a professional golfer. So I played golf my whole childhood, and I was just this massive person that just didn't fit into the golf scene at all, and never really even got into fights or anything like that. Like I was on a scholarship at a private school, like come from like a proper working class family and stuff like that. Like my dad was in construction and things, and I was playing rugby over in England as well. So I was like second tier professional league with rugby, and I ended up losing my contract and then just going drinking piss for like 6 months and having the time of my life. And then I was like, oh, well, better go back home. And a friend of mine's like, oh, come visit me in Thailand. I'm doing this fat camp thing. And I was like, well, that's exactly what I need to do. And ended up at Tiger. And I was like, going through there, doing those fitness class type of things. And I was like watching the striking happen. And I was like, oh, I'll give it a go. And then just kind of came natural straight away. I was hitting pads, and then I think I was trained for 4 days. And then they have this thing, the barbecue beatdown, which is like a smoker fight.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, would you like to have a fight? And I was like, yeah, why not? You didn't know any different. It was like ignorance is bliss. I'll have a go. They're like, oh, yeah, this guy's been training for 6 months. I was like, oh, fuck, here we go. And yeah, so trained for 2 weeks, jumped into the ring, and ended up like scoring a knockout pretty early. But it was just like the small things that led into the fight. Like I was training with the guy whose name was Moo, and he was just like really humble and, you know, telling me about how Muay Thai works and all that type of stuff. And then he's like, yeah, I've had 450 fights. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And just kind of instantly, obviously the aesthetics of everything around Phuket and things like that was pretty easy to fall in love with. But like with the Thai culture, it's very similar to like, so I'm originally like Māori, New Zealand, you know, Indigenous Kiwi. And a lot of the cultural beliefs and things like that have like really big similarities.
Yep.
So it just resonated with me straight away, the actual, you know, like tradition and cultural part of Muay Thai. And then when, you know, at the time, I'd never thought I'd ever be like fighting. I was just like, oh, this is cool. I'll do this once and, you know, get fit and have a good time. And then after that first fight, I was just hooked forever. It was like the feeling of like testing yourself against someone else who's just purely been focusing on trying to fight. And, you know, for that 6 or 8 weeks of their camp or whatever it is just, they're there to try and, you know, knock you out or whatever it is, you know, inflict as much damage as they can to you. I found it like pretty empowering type of thing, you know. So I see people have all these like street fights and all that stuff and they think they're tough as. I was like, mate, go and fight someone who's been training solely for this for 6 or 8 weeks. That's a real way to test your, you know, test your character and test out.
That's a different beast.
Yeah. So it was just all that stuff kind of just all hit at once. And I was like, mate, I kind of just gave everything up from there. And went back home, I went back on site, worked for 6 months, then came back again for 6 months. And, you know, slowly got around to different gyms and different things. And then, yeah, now it's all led to my whole life is just Muay Thai now.
So want to, of course, as we do on the show, kind of stay on the kind of Muay Thai path, but have to take a step back off of your story just to unpack one thing. How does one end up doing golf and rugby in tandem? Like, how does that come together?
It was a weird one. So my dad was like a pretty decent rugby player as well when he was younger, and they used to like every Sunday go and play golf as a social outing. It was just their excuse to go and drink as much piss as they could and get away from their wives, you know?
Okay, yep.
And it just took me along, and it was just another thing. Like I picked up a club, hit the ball straight away. I was like 10 years old and just like smoked one straight down the middle. Then they like did it again, they like hit another one and did it again. And then everyone was just like, all right, this is our ticket out of here. We're going to put all our energy into him and see if he makes the wins for us. But I was just, yeah, it started from there. And then I was in love with it, man. Like, I'm one of those people, like, I've got an addictive personality to no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm doing something, it's 110%. There's no in between. Like, I almost got arrested once because I stole my dad's car when I was 15 to drive to the driving range because I just wanted to go and hit golf balls. Like,
Risked it all.
Risked it all to go and hit golf balls, you know what I mean? Like,
that's dedication to golf.
Yeah. And the worst thing was the guys at the local driving range, like, you know, knew me well, and they saw me rock up and they called my dad. They're like, oh, he's driven your car here. And my dad came down. Yeah. I was like, you fucking. My dad came down and beat the shit out of me. Yeah, and I was like, I'm sorry, I just wanted to play golf.
Do you still get out for some golf here and there?
Yeah, well, funny thing, last year during COVID, they had like a big golf tournament here in Phuket at this place called the Blue Canyon. And I hadn't really
Sounds
played.
ritzy.
Yeah, with mate, I was not welcomed with open arms. Walking like tattooed and big, and and didn't really have any of my own clothes. I went to the local decathlon and got like $100 polo.
Not your quintessential golfer look.
Yeah, with a flat cap on as well. Like it's really, really oozing golf appeal. So I went with my partner's brother-in-law, and I didn't even tell him that I used to play golf, because I was like, oh, if I tell him I was good and then I go there and I'm the worst person ever, I just look like an idiot.
Yeah, just set no expectations.
Yeah, and we played in this charity golf there, and they ended up winning the whole tournament. And like some of the local ties, and even I ended up beating the professional from the club, and he was like coming after me. You know what they're like? He's like, "Oh, you cheater for sure. No way. Look at you, Pumpoy boy. You cannot play golf." And they invited me back, and then I played with them again, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, you can play golf." Yeah. It was a humbling experience as well, playing golf with all the ties, because everything was just money.
Mm.
Like, golf is always kind of seen as a rich man's sport.
Yeah.
So these Thai boys were betting like 10,000 baht a hole and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I'm a Muay Thai coach. I don't even have 10,000 baht.
I'm just here for the love of the game.
Yeah. I'm here for the free food afterwards.
Yeah, because I remember I saw you on Instagram once doing some tricky shit with the golf club. But
Yeah. I'm just like a whole accumulation of a waste of talent. Like I get to like the second level of every professional sport, and then I just kind of be like, oh well, that's enough of this one. I'll go to the next one.
You're a generalist, like you don't want to follow one path too far.
No.
Who knows what else is out there?
That's what I mean. Like, so there's a stage where I was playing professional rugby, playing professional golf, and then like 2 or 3 years later, I was fighting professionally. And my whole family was like, mate, make up your mind. Like, we don't know where we're going, but we're going to the fucking golf course, or we're going to, watch you scrap in a car park.
So that's an interesting question as well, given like your multiple sporting endeavors. Is like, have your family always been there supporting? Are they the types to come and watch you fight live? Are they there watching you play golf? Have they just been on this whole kind of multifaceted journey with you?
Yeah, man, my poor mum, like when I was like 14, 15, 16, I'd be at the driving range all week, like Monday to Friday. Then I'd play rugby Saturday morning, try and go and hit some more balls in the afternoon, and then I'd play basketball Sunday. And my mum was at every single one of them, She had no choices. Like, I didn't have any other way to get there. And like, because at every time I was like in some sort of representative squad or something like that. So she's like, oh, well, can't say no, like he's not like he's just going there fighting around. And then I didn't follow any of them in the end. So.
Well, you had way more work ethic than me as a young guy.
And I was just like always this big fat like kid who just had all this natural skill and just would refuse to do any of the extra cardio to get fit. But yeah, my family was good with everything, like anything that I wanted to do, they'd let me do. And then if I was like kind of good at it, they'd be like, oh, well, we'll just keep focusing on that for a bit. And then I just, didn't do anything with any of it in the end.
Well, now kind of watching you fight, do you reckon your mum might have preferred if you stuck with golf?
Yeah. So my mum never came into any of my fights until my last fight when I fought the Titan, that giant from.
Yep.
And even then she was like, the worst thing I ever did was let her come to the fight.
Yeah.
Because she was just so nervous and like trying not to be nervous. And I was like, could see it, you could see it on your parents' face. And I was like, oh, this is not what I wanted right now.
Yeah.
But it was also like, it was cool because like she understood it all. And then like when I did the white crew and stuff like that, like I never really explained anything of that to her. And then after the fight, she had all these questions, and it was like, really cool to share that kind of experience and cultural things with her as well. She's like, oh, it's not just a blood sport. It's, there's an art form to it.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But I remember in that fight, because I broke my leg in that fight, like when he checked the kick.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
It's like as cliche or as, whatever it sounds like, I'll never forget. I kicked and I knew straight away when I put my foot down that I was fucked. But I just had the whole arena just went completely black, and I could just see my mum, and it was so weird. It was the only thing that I could see was my mum with her hand on her mouth, and I was like, oh fuck, like I can't let her know I've broken my leg. So I ended up finishing the round on a broken leg, like trying to go for it. It was a pretty cool experience. Even like that's the most pivotal thing I ever remember in any fight. But it was also the worst thing I ever had as well.
Yeah, probably not like the best way to introduce your mum to it when she comes to watch.
I remember because she's like, my mum never realizes how big I am, you know what I mean? Because she's just been with me my whole life. And then she's like, when she saw the other, she's like, why are you doing this? But yeah, it was always supportive, man. They never missed anything as well. So it was really good.
It helps a lot.
Yeah.
And so coming back to kind of your career in general, you kind of mentioned you were sort of hooked after that first trip to Thailand. And so since then, has it just kind of been back to Australia to get some money together and then hopping over to Thailand? You've always been back and forth?
Pretty much, man. Like I've spent over the last 10 years, at least 3 months of the year in Thailand, if not more.
Yep.
So it's just like when I first was fighting, when I went back home, I ended up in an MMA gym and doing kickboxing and all that stuff. And I was almost going to give it all up because I'm like, oh, this is shit. This is not what I like. Like I hated the pad work. I hated the kind of culture that was in the K1 scene at the time. And I had a K1 fight and just, I was like, oh, this isn't for me anymore. And I kind of stopped for a little bit there. And because I live in St. Kilda and I have lived there for like 20 years. And I just was walking down the street and I could just hear pads getting hit. And I didn't know where it was or what was going on. I just remembered the sound. And then I looked up and I'd seen Super Fight. And I walked in there, like, I'll never forget, as I was walking in, like pads are getting cracked. And then I just hear Naughty by Nature playing on the stereo. And I was like, oh, this, go out there smelling Number Muay everywhere and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, this is where I need to be. So, but I was still more focused on wanting to be in Thailand because I didn't have to work. It was a lot cheaper and better food and better training and all that type of stuff.
Super Fight's like a little slice of Thailand in St. Kilda, though.
It is, you know what I mean? Especially like I'm really close with Don, obviously, and his family. And like Poise,
shout out to Don Miller. We love Don Miller.
Everybody does. You can't go wrong with a bit of Donnie in your life.
Can't.
Like I'm super close with his wife as well, and she accommodates in a Thai way. Like will bring me Thai food after training and stuff like that, and like just it's a little slice of Thailand in a small brick place.
Yeah.
But so I was like, I got to a stage where I'd had about 3 or 4 fights and I'd won them all by knockout. But like, I'm a real traditionalist, even when I fight, like I fight proper Thai style. I try and start a little bit slower and things like that. And it's a difficult concept in heavyweights because everyone's trying to knock your head off, But after that, I ended up getting sponsored by Tiger full time because they were doing like the tryout programs and things like that.
Yeah.
But I could never make it at the right time. But because I got really close with like the strength and conditioning coach and things like that, they just spoke to the owner and he's like, oh, well, senior fights are good. We'll sponsor you for a little bit. And yeah, but even then, like I had no one to really work with. So I was kind of pretty much just training MMA because I had all these gigantic Russian and Baltic people just wrestling me and throwing me around and things like that. But after that, it just, I fought, majority of my fights were like in Thailand and then I had a couple in China just because it was an easy thing from here.
Yep.
I've only fought in Australia 3 times.
Wow.
But it's it's been a great journey. it's not over yet, but I'm kind of slowly getting further and further away from the fighting aspect and like really enjoying the coaching part of things.
It's difficult, right, to be all in on coaching.
Yeah.
And kind of keep at fighting at the same time.
Yeah, that's why like these people that have their own gyms and they're still trying to fight, I'm like, I don't understand how on earth they can do it.
Yeah, I don't get it at all. I admire them, good on them, but I don't know how they do it.
I don't get it at all. There must be like 9 o'clock training sessions every night and things like that.
Yeah, respect that grind.
Yeah.
And so we'll get into it a little bit. The the coaching that you're doing. I've been keeping up with you guys on Instagram. Looks like you got a cool thing going there. So you mentioned you spent some time as a sponsored fighter at Tiger, now still in Phuket, but kind of heading up the team at Powerhouse. How did that all come together?
So Powerhouse originally was owned with the owner at the moment, Jack, and Eddie and Brooke Farrell.
Yep.
And I was training at Tiger and things were just kind of turning to shit there. Like their Muay Thai program ends up being pretty bad for the quality of fighters they have as well. Like they have this thing where you won't hit pads until it's a week before you fight.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was all kind of turning to shit. And then Tiff Lamb messaged me. She's like, "Oh, you should go and meet these guys, Eddie and Brooke Farrell. They're the nicest people in the world." And it was only 5 minutes from where I was staying. And the first day I got to Powerhouse, it wasn't even like they were just had mats on a concrete road in the middle of the sun with no roof or anything like that. And I messaged them. I was like, "Oh, I want to come down and have a session." They're like, "Oh yeah, come at 3 o'clock." I got there at 3 o'clock. It was like piping hot. They're like, "Oh, we might wait a little bit until the shade comes," because the mats were just on fire and you couldn't do anything. And I was like, "Oh, I kind of like that, you know what I mean? Like that just raw and not rustic, but they were just like doing whatever they wanted to do at the pace that they wanted to do it."
Yeah.
And so I was training there. I was still sponsored at Tiger and I was just training there. And I just, you know what I mean? I built a great relationship with Eddie and Brooke and Jack at the time. And then Tiger found out that I was training at Powerhouse and cancelled my sponsorship after that. And I was like, "Oh, sweet, whatever. Writing's on the wall. Time to move on."
Yeah.
And then, when I went down there, just kind of worked straight away, like Eddie and I were training together. And then I had a fight coming up against Panda Banks from...
Yep. On Full Metal Dojo, right?
Yeah, which is a whole other kettle of fish, that place. And Eddie just talked to me really well, and really made me feel comfortable. And it was, just saying the right things at the right times. And like he would call me to make sure I'd be going to training and things like that. And I was like, it lit another fire because like some of the ties you can get lost with them, you know what I mean? It becomes complacency and they like just expect you to do what you have to do, which is fair enough, completely fair enough, especially if you're a sponsored fighter. But when you have someone that cares and like throws that energy into you, it's like that. And also with Jack was the same. They would look forward to you being at training because they knew that you're getting the right work happening.
Yeah.
And then obviously after that, COVID hit and Eddie and Brooke had been here for like 6 or 7 years or whatever it is by then. And they were just at their wits' end with Thailand. Because it's still hard, no matter what, being like a foreigner over here, sometimes you're accepted and sometimes you're not. And then they'll accept you until they don't have a use for you after that as well. So that kind of just grew on them too much and they decided to move on. And obviously it was the best move they ever made because they got a cracking gym going in Mexico and things like that.
Mexico, yeah. What a story that's become. Like
Mate,
for so long in Thailand.
And like credit to them, they're just like, they're kind of gypsies, you know what I mean? But they just, wherever they crop up, they just make something and it just works. And it always works so well.
Yeah.
So after they left, I had the conversation, like I was holding pads as well because they were letting me train for free. And when they left, I kind of had the conversation with Jack. I was like, oh, I'll stick around for a bit and help out. It was like never an ambition to be the head coach or anything like that. And it just kind of, I just was just there every day, and then it just became like, oh yeah, you're coaching the boys. I'm like, all right, sweet. And kind of just naturally evolved into that aspect. And I went home during COVID, and then I spoke to Jack again. I was like, listen, man, I'm prepared to dedicate the rest of my life to doing this. And he was like straight away, like, yeah, please, man, I'd love to have another trainer that I can, communicate with, and we kind of have the same kind of striking ideas with our fighters. And and then he just offered me the job, and I was like, well, I'm not going to say no to living in Phuket no matter what, even if it is just getting punched and kicked every day. But it's exactly where I wanted to be. We're a bit of a smaller gym in scale in retrospect compared to the other places.
Yep.
But it's like the perfect amount. Like, we got 12 active fighters at the moment. Like, what I mean by active is like they're fighting every month type of thing.
Yep.
And like, I have some sort of rapport with every single one of them, and they all have different styles and stuff like that. So it's amazing to be able to kind of, hone in on different people and different skills, and then move on to the next person, and then, do something completely different with them. Because it kind of changed me and my approach of how I'd fight now, because you just see things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Like, we're building a very, very strong team, and already now, like if we're at local stadiums and stuff like that, all the gamblers go mad when we get in there. They're like, oh, sweet, Powerhouse boys are in the house. They know how to fight. They're tough.
Yeah.
They're smart. We're getting a lot of big bets, like big side bets, in like Bangla and Patong Stadium, stuff like that. And then, like, our top 4 or 5 guys are always in Bangkok fighting every month as well now. So we've got a good stable going for a small foreign gym. And when the Thais respect it, that's when you know you're doing something right.
Yeah, definitely. And so walk me through a little bit, if you don't mind. So you got yourself and Jack, you've mentioned, kind of running the show. Who are you the only 2 trainers? Are there a few more? What's kind of the full team like?
So yeah, Jack and I are the foreign trainers. Then we got four Thai trainers as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we have John Watthana. He was, and he's the head Thai trainer, and I'm the head foreign trainer or whatever. We don't really have any label for it, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
Jack has kind of taken a step back from the pad holding thing now and overseeing.
Yeah.
Kind of, if he was an old Thai bloke with a stick, everyone would know who, he's got that like aura happening now, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Because he sees things on the other side of the pads that we don't see at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
But so we got John, and we got 3 other Thai guys. Petch, who's a 58 kilo fighter.
Yep.
That will hold pads for me all day, every day, and just loves it.
Yeah.
And just, it gives me the hardest time out of everyone. And we got another guy, Oi, who used to be at Sitchapo. And we just hired another new guy, Toom, who's like a really active, like super champ, Muay hardcore Thai fighter.
Oh, yeah.
So he's more so there for like clinching and stuff like that, and getting the like, proper ready. So we have our core Thai base of training and things like that, and then Jack and I kind of put, I mean, for lack of a better term, like a Western approach to our Muay Thai, like.
Yeah.
Like, we have a lot of specific boxing days, and hands into the clinch and hands into kicking and things like that. Because when our boys go to Bangkok and fight, you got to trying to beat a Thai at their own game is never going to happen. So we're trying to be a bit more adaptive and a bit more, unique in our approach of how we go about things. And it's good, man. Our little community there is amazing, and the Thais, they love where they are. Like, they get offered jobs all the time because people see what they're turning out, and then none of them ever leave. They're happy to be where they are. And they love, like they said, like the same thing, because we're a small gym. They know that their influence to that person is really coming out when they fight.
Yeah.
It's kind of getting lost in the crowd. Because most of the gyms around here, like credit to them, man. It's amazing that they can do it. But like, we got Tiger, Simbi, and like Phuket top team and stuff is like the closer teams to us. They might get 50, 60 people in the class.
They're like super facilities, right?
Yeah, and it's like, how are you going to get any love with, any one-on-one time when you got to go through that much?
Yeah, definitely. And do you find it's kind of an interesting position because, like, as you know, like that kind of idea of going to Thailand and training with the Thais, it's this very, to people who have not done it before, it's this very romantic kind of idea associated with the sport. And I'm always interested in a gym like Powerhouse that has such like a Western presence at kind of the leading the training. Like, do you find there's ever like a degree of like skepticism for you guys' ability to train people when people come along? Like, is there a little bit of like, oh, I came here to train with the Thais, or you find people are pretty open to it right away?
Like when I first came back, I knew, because I hadn't been here for a while, I knew that I had to be on the outside and let the Thais kind of welcome me in, because it wasn't so much the customers, it was making sure that I could actually be part of their team, because at the end of the day, it's their sport, their culture, their country. So I'd like suck up their asses every time, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, would you guys like a sponsor? I'll get some sponsors from 7-Eleven, and especially like being a heavyweight as well, you just straight away they're like, oh man, you don't know anything about Muay Thai, you're just going to go out there and punch on. And I'd talk Thai to them and things like that, and they're like, what the hell's going on here? And I was like, man, I love Thailand, I love the people, I love the culture. But it took probably close enough to 3 weeks for the head Thai trainer John to actually like kind of give me like the nod of approval, Like I would hold pads and he'd look at me and be like, oh, okay, yeah, all right. You kind of know what you're doing. And I'd try and have a laugh with them and things like that. But they didn't see me as competition, but I just, like I said, I knew that I had to let them welcome me into what essentially is still their gym.
Yeah.
And it was only after I took one of the Thai trainers was getting ready for a fight, and he's quite tall. And I was taking him and I kind of like corrected his knee a little bit. I was like just telling him like, I want you to get your calf and your hamstring close to each other so we could pierce that knee. Because they're like a real Diesel type person. And it was just there and then he came up behind me and patted me on the back. And he's like, oh, give me the thumbs up. And I was like, yes. But I had like a bit of difficulty with like even the fight team that was already established. Like a couple of boys kind of just like, oh, well, you know what I mean? I'm not exactly a picture of fitness. And one of the guys just wouldn't have it. I was like, just telling him, I was like, come on, mate, you need to move your ass. And he's like, well, look at you. And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, yeah, it didn't work out too well for him at the end, but I was just like, everyone else was like, thriving. They're like, oh, this is amazing, like getting so much knowledge out of him and holding pads and giving them everything that I can. And then he was just like, well, you're a heavyweight, you don't know about Muay Thai. So I ended up putting the pads on and like sparring with him and just kept sweeping him and, clinching and things like that. Kind of like had to humble him a little bit. And then after that, it was cool. We actually built a decent rapport. And he's like, oh, I just thought you were just some big idiot that we just wanted to throw hands and things like that. But like a lot of customers come to train with us just because of communication.
Yep.
Because, obviously being native English speakers, it's just like that. But because we also have the Thais there to hold the pads, they kind of get the best of both worlds. So like what we call public classes, we have all the Thai guys demonstrating everything, and then I'm like there, like David Attenborough, like narrating over the top of it. I'm like, so they're doing this and that and blah, blah, blah. So it works out really, really well because we get the high quality techniques, and then I can explain it to everyone so they can comprehend it a lot easier.
Yeah, and that is like a struggle that people sort of sometimes don't think about when you go to Thailand and train with elite Thai trainers, is that like you never really know how much is slipping through the cracks just from language barrier.
Yeah.
like there's like having that extra kind of, having some translation is an incredible way to gain more from an elite trainer who can really only show you by, and you'll get shown a lot, of course, but like for those things where you're just not quite grasping it, or it's down to a little bit of interpretation, I guess, when you can just look and copy, like having a bit of that explanation in your native language helps a lot.
Well, like even like yesterday, for instance, they were like explaining like a proper, catching of the kick and things like that. And one of the boys was trying to explain like how to make sure you lock it in, but he couldn't really communicate it that well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was able to come in and be like, once you grab the leg, make sure that you have your palm on your stomach so that they can't get their leg out, and just small minor details that means so much in that like whatever technique at the time. It makes everyone's like, fuck yeah, this is great. I get every single part of the technique from the trainer, and then get it explained in like, all the way down to the fine details.
Like
I said, they're the ones, the smallest details make the biggest difference in Muay Thai.
Yeah, definitely. Like I remember it's been a long time since I was in Thailand now, actually, but the last time I was there, I was learning I was picking up a couple of tips from Kalna at PK Senchai.
Yeah.
And like he was really, really cool. Like just one of the days I was there, just took that time to just get a couple of us idiot Westerners together and be like, here's a couple of things that I like to do. But Ongyan Topic was there as well, who's been there a long time and can speak Thai. And like I just remember Kana showing this, like it's at a surface level, it's quite simple, but the way Ongyan could talk to him and then relay back really detailed instruction, I was just like, it's mind blowing. Like I would never have been able to pick that up just from looking and copying. Like that level of articulation is just, and I'm like, I just remember thinking what a kind of almost for me as a non-Thai speaker, what a missed opportunity. I would have learned something from Ghana in that exchange, but how much more I gained from that small period of time, just being able to put that into words that I could understand, and also be able to show and then get that feedback. I think that's probably what you miss out on, is the feedback from the trainer. They can show and you can copy, but if you're making an ass of it, they'll probably be like, well, that's as much as I can do. I showed you the technique. Like
you said, like it can be the smallest thing, like whatever angle you've set your body or something like that.
Yeah,
they can't explain that to you. They'll just be like, oh well, you're getting a good thumbs up. Like you kind of got what I was getting at. You got the gist of it. Yeah, and then you ended up in the right spot somewhere. But that's like, and it's kind of why a lot of the fighters are coming to us now as well. Like we're at an unbelievable stage of the gym now, where we kind of have to pick and choose what fighter we will let come to the, because we have our fighters trained separately to the public class. Okay. And it's for safety reasons, and it's not because we don't want the fighters to be sparring with, whatever, a beginner or something like that and hurting them. It's when you have like it's always like someone who's fresh to the sport, like who doesn't really understand what they're doing yet, that'll throw some like weird kick from a weird angle that will end up injuring one of the boys. Yeah, definitely. So we just kind of left it alone and like let them all just train with each other. So like I'm a huge advocate for like how Matt Lucas was saying the other day, how Muay Thai is a team sport. Yeah. So like that's one of my biggest things is like we had Paul, the Muay Thai technician. Yep. Muay Thai podcasting OG. Yes. Yeah. I respect the ones that came before me. The founding fathers. Yeah, definitely. So he fought Friday night and then was back in the gym yesterday to make sure, because a couple of other boys got fights next week. And he's like, well, you guys were there for me for training, so I'm back here if I can help in any way. And that's how it's got it. You need people like that around. Yeah. Well, Paul's like a great figure to have, you know what I mean? Not obviously he's very like present in the social media world and things like that, but he's like our unofficial team captain type of thing, you know? Everyone will like go to him for a little bit of advice and things like that. So when he comes back in the gym, like, the day after his fight, kind of sets a precedence for all the other boys.
Yeah.
Like, oh, and he said that he's like, well, you guys were there to help me train for this fight, so I'm back to help you train.
Yeah.
Like, amazing culture that we've got going on at the moment, and like with the right people. That's why we get messages every day, like, oh, I want to be a sponsored fighter. I want to come and train there. And it's like, we have a rule now, like, no, we won't sponsor anyone straight off the bat. You have to pay for your month of training, prove that you're going to be part of the team and going to be of some use to the team as well. You have people just coming in, filtering through and not really clicking with all the other boys and stuff like that. And it just turns to shit.
Yeah. It's like we've had conversations with a lot of people that are based in Thailand full time about this. I don't know. People just get this idea that they're worth more than they are, I think. Like, oh, I want to be like, a sponsorship of any kind has to be built on the idea of exchange of value. And if you're just approaching a gym you've never been to, like, I want you to sponsor me, what have you, like, I think if you've demonstrated that you're a positive contributor to the culture of the gym, if you show that you bring something back, and then you kind of can create this exchange of value, but you're automatically probably raising a red flag if you've never set foot in the gym before, or you've just got there and you're like, hey, I want you to sponsor me. Like, you're already just being like, you should cover me being here. I'm doing you a favor by training with you. I would be skeptical of that person's culture fit right off the bat.
But that's exactly right. And it's always like, whatever, there's a cliche with the people that do that as well, like, there's always some person on message be like, oh, I've got a UCB 3749 world title. And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? I'm like, unless it has 3 letters, bro, I don't care about anything that unless it's WBC, WMC, something like that. I'm like, none of this means anything to us. I'm like, just come and train, and then we'll see how it works from there. And then, like you said, you know the person straight away from the reply you get from that. They'll be like, oh, no, but like, are you going to sponsor me or not? And I'll just say straight away, nah, don't worry about it. Like, if you can't come for the month and, train to earn your spot or whatever it is, like, just, yeah, sweet, move on to the next one.
Yeah, but also you have to think, someone who, like, that's a person who is just looking for a sponsorship. They're just looking for a handout. They've probably messaged 5 other gyms with the same thing, you know what I mean? Like, someone that you really want to sponsor is someone who is at the gym because they want to be there. Like, it would be a conversation of they've been, paying their keep to show up, and then the relationship has built from there. That's like a sponsorship that will work. Like, there is no upside whatsoever, barring some super special cases, a gym just sponsoring someone in advance.
Yeah, and like, the foreign world has, I don't know where they got this misconception that you can approach gyms and be like, well, I've had 7 fights, so you should sponsor me because I'm going to be the next big thing and all this stuff. So great, man. You have some self-confidence, you have some self-belief, but you're not even a fucking, you know what I mean? You're not even a drop of the ocean of what people are capable of out here.
Yeah.
Like, everyone wants this sponsorship thing, but it turns out to be a lot worse than, it's not the dream that everyone thinks it is.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're like at one of the big Thai gyms and stuff. Like, to them, you become a commodity. They say fight, you fight. That's the end of it.
Yeah, because it's a job.
Up. Yeah, and you work for them at the end of the day. As much as it's your career, if they say, "Sweet, oh hey man, you're fighting in 3 days and you fought a week ago and you're still banged up," it's like, oh, you don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
It's either fight or you lose your sponsorship, and it becomes so hard for a lot of people. And you hear all these people that are like, oh, I used to be sponsored there and then I left because they were abusing me in the way of making me fight every couple of weeks. It's like, well, what do you expect?
What were you providing to the sponsorship?
Yeah.
What were you giving?
Yeah,
Right.
oh,
you had to hold up your side of the bargain.
I used to clean the gym and shit. I was like, so like a 10-minute job, for training, accommodation, and food. Like, doesn't seem like a fucking bad thing, does it?
Yeah. Like, to support your training back home, you've got to work 9 to 5.
Yeah, exactly right. And you get to train for maybe 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, it's so, like, the Thais, especially now, like I said, because we're pretty much just a predominantly foreign gym, we're getting so much more accepted everywhere we go. Like you see all the things like Muay Thai Gram and stuff like that, you know, like even Sanctin Noy that used to say like the foreigners are taking over the game because they want to train, they have the dedication and things like that. But it's very, very few that will ever make it to that top.
Yep.
And all these people that like, you know, like I said, have seven fights and they've got some title that you can buy from KFC. They're like, oh, I'm going to be the next Ojan and stuff like that. It's like, well, you're not. To be real, you know?
I hate to break it to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you make an interesting point about how kind of like the perception is sort of changing in that, you know, maybe in some cases foreigners can kind of take advantage of a degree of complacency. Like you hear that take a lot where it's like the tide is turning as far as elite level Thais just walk over foreigners by default. Like the foreigners have enough access to information now and are hungry enough to really, of course the Thais are still a step ahead, but you're seeing more and more examples of, you know, Thais who approach some foreign fighters, even like one championship and things like that. You get good examples of Thais that have perhaps been a bit disdainful of foreign opposition and got a shock. And the same can be said for kind of foreign run gyms. There's more of them popping up. I'm interested to hear your take on, like you mentioned, you're getting received well by people who come to train. Like I guess in Thailand, what you find if you go to a few gyms in Thailand is a lot of the real old school gyms, like people ask about where should I train in Thailand? And a lot of the time what it kind of boils down to is most places do the same thing every day.
Yeah.
Like to a degree, they run, they kick pads. Do you find like you guys have like kind of a unique spin on training? Like how does you kind of like structure a week for your fighters? Are there any big differences between what they get at Powerhouse versus what they would get at a more traditionally Thai gym?
Yeah, well, like first and foremost, straight off the bat, we do like what we call the fighter conditioning circuits.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a program that was made for Volkanovski, Izzy, and all those boys. So like my best mate out here, Andrew Wood, is like one of the most predominant S&C coaches in the fight game.
Yeah, I follow him online. He's a smart guy.
Yeah. So he's detailed a specific Muay Thai conditioning circuit, which is like we do 6-minute rounds. You know, without giving too much away, it's like doing explosive power work with barbell with a plate, and then straight into clinching or straight into pads for 1 minute with specific combos. So like Thais just refuse to believe that strength and conditioning can be a part of Muay Thai. It's like if you want to get good at Muay Thai, you run, you kick pads, and you spar.
And the Thai there is changing a little bit too, but still not like across the board. Yeah, it's still very
even our trainers.
Ways. Yeah,
our trainers like look and they shake their heads like, "What are you for long? What are you doing?" You know. But then the boys are benefiting from it so much, you know, and it's all fight specific movements, whether it's loaded movements or whatever it is, and they all benefit from it. You know what I mean? And they love it. They're like, some of them look forward to that conditioning circuit for the week. But we still obviously have the same traditional Thai values because that's the way that's how the sport was built.
Yep.
I do believe it's the right way to do it, but in moderation. So our boys only run 3 days a week. You know, they don't run every single morning. Because I'm like, if you're accumulating like 85 Ks or 90 Ks by the end of the week, like I just believe that's too much personally.
Yeah.
And I for goddamn sure wouldn't be doing it. But I was like, you know what I mean? There's a time and place for everything. I just don't think that you need to be running 10 Ks every day before training. You know, you can do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then the other days skip and shadow. Have a bit of, you know, velocity in your training.
Take a bit of stress off the knees too. Like slow trotting around a park for 10 to 12 Ks every single day. And something like the last time I was in Thailand, it was like I didn't mind it, but like I'm reasonably kind of like I can take running. Like I know a lot of people, it's just luck of the draw, but like it was every day 12K in the morning and 6K in the afternoon. Like that's a lot of Ks at the end of the week.
To me, that's almost a training session in itself. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, to do that and then come back and do 5 rounds of pads and then clinching and then sparring and stuff like that. Like, yeah, it works to, if you don't know any different and you've been doing it since you're 8 years old, your body's supposed to be able to handle that. But like, we only, like, young Blake from Superfight is just one of these freaks of nature that he'll run like 20 Ks and then come in and train and just keep going and then go and run again. Like
Helps being tiny also.
Yeah, exactly right. But he just fucking loves running, like loves it. It's like his favorite thing in the world to do. I'm like, you're a psychopath.
I'm similar to him. Like, my trainer's been at me recently about like, I just want you to, but like I've done some dumb stuff like I signed up for half marathons a couple of weeks out for fights and stuff like that, which like my trainer doesn't condone. Like, but yeah, it's not really like, I think like the last time I was in Thailand, one of the guys I got to know was like a lot bigger than I am. And like the Thai trainers were really at him about how, like he would bust his knees if he tried to run that much. He just wasn't designed for it.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's a kind of a blanket approach.
That's like, I went up to Sankey's and Sankey's like, oh, go out running with these boys. I'm like, no. He's like, you go running, bro. And I was like, mate, I'm 135 kilos, bro. I'm not going out there running, you know. I just said, I just don't do it. I'll sit on the bike for half an hour at a good pace and get my cardio in. But if it was grass, maybe, but I'm not out running on Thai roads that are made out of God knows what, that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said, if I go running, I won't be training. Like, I can't physically run 12 Ks and then come in and train.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. But yeah, so that's probably one of our biggest points of difference is we do the strength conditioning work. And obviously, like, everyone kind of does it anyway, but we have like just boxing only days and things like that too. Because I'm a big believer in like the way that our Bangkok, well, we call them like whatever, we call them the Bangkok boys because they're the ones that find Bangkok.
Yeah.
Is we do a lot of our work with the hands to try and, you know, get the Thai engaged a little bit more. Obviously, majority of the Thai boys are great kickers, whatever. They might have their own styles and things like that. But we do a lot, heaps and heaps of feint work with our hands to set up our kicks. In a traditional way, you know, we still fight in Muay Thai, but we just change it a little bit.
Yeah, like, you still adhere to those core conventions, but create that point of difference and not sort of just play that technical points game with someone who has much more experience than you do. Yeah.
And like we're big believers in feinting and things like that because you can get a read pretty quickly off, you know, what their reaction is, you know, if they're moving their hands, if they're moving their feet or whatever it is, and then we can kind of build a little bit of a game plan after that.
Yep.
Any of our boys that are fighting 5 rounders in Bangkok, it's just purely feinting pretty much the whole first round, whether it's teeps, hands or whatever, just to see what reaction we're getting.
Yeah.
And try to expose that further down the line.
Proper 5-round game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like a lot of our boys, they're switch hitters and stuff like that now as well, which is really good for them. Like, we only teach switch hitting, like progressing forward to be able to move into a different stance and stuff like that. Because otherwise some boys just get lost and they just get so confused about what's going on.
And what I saw this week also was kind of making the next move in terms of Powerhouse's expansion. So kind of becoming part of a bit of a network, joining up with some MMA, some grappling. What's happening there?
So we're moving down to a bigger space, just because it's been awesome. Like I said, like the place is growing and we're just kind of running out of room at our gym at the moment.
That's a good problem to have.
It's a great problem to have, you know. And then I feel kind of bad, like some people, there's like people just squish together trying to hit pads and things like that. So it was great. It was the next evolution for us anyway. We're already on the path of looking at a new place and trying to get something bigger. And a friend of ours came over and he's like, listen, I'm going to start my own jiu-jitsu gym. He does his striking with us and he's jiu-jitsu at another, or he was doing it at another place. And he wasn't liking the training. And then there was a gym that was running in Rawai on the beachfront years back called Fighters Gym. and turned into
Yep.
Thai camp. And just through COVID, they unfortunately lost all their, ability to train. So it was too big for us at the time to purely do Muay Thai. And it worked out perfectly for them to do Jiu-Jitsu, and then we've got the Muay Thai system running there as well. Because, like, even at the moment, a lot of the boys on the island come and train with me for striking. Like, I've got Junior Tuffer, Mark Hunt, like things like that. So it's like we got MMA people coming in. So now we're kind of going to be a one-stop shop, but two separate businesses, but supporting each other no matter what. And then hopefully, if things go right, we'll further down the line, we'll probably evolve into being an MMA gym as well.
And do you kind of feel like you'll still have a Muay Thai program running
Everything
parallel
for us,
with the MMA?
yeah, everything for us is Muay Thai. Even if we do have an MMA program, Muay Thai is still going to be our main focus.
Love it.
It's just, what I mean? We want to get bigger and better and expand into different things, but as long as our core product is the top tier, that's all we really care about, Like, obviously we'll put the right dedication and things into place when it comes to that. But Jack and I have like a plan, a 5-year goal and things like that of how we want our Muay Thai team to be perceived. Like, obviously the hierarchy, the chain of command right now, Leo and Phuket Fight Club.
Yep.
They're the ones we emulate the kind of system of. We want to be the next gym that everyone knows, our foreign fighters, everyone knows, the name straight away. It's like what those boys have achieved in a small amount of time has been incredible.
That is seriously crazy.
Insane. And the way that he's accepted in the culture, in the community is insane,
I'm a huge fan.
When we went out to Raja last week, we're slowly, like, because we're there a lot, they were slowly starting to like warm into us. But like Leo walks in and people are like whining to him, like his utmost respect, which is well deserved too.
Yeah, definitely.
And like, you know what I mean? Like, the team that they've created is insane. And then
Crazy lineup.
Yeah. And that's the kind of the next evolution for us, you know what I mean? We want to be if we can even be spoken in the same context as them, then we've achieved way more than we ever thought we would.
Yeah, it's a big goal, right?
Yeah, it's probably, you know what I mean? Like, if you're not reaching for the stars, what are you reaching for?
Yeah, 100%. It's the right goal.
Yeah. Like I said, if we could get anywhere into that kind of realm of things, like, it's especially now, like, people like Matt Lucas and things like that, man, is such a huge influence and such a great credit to any Western person in the Muay Thai scene. Because like they're doing commentary, over the top of the Raja fights and over the top of fights at Lumpini and stuff like that. And then, that gains traction for everyone. And he's a cool guy, man. He gives us shout outs all the time. And like, when our fighters are on, he's such a great advocate for anyone in the Western world.
Been a really good advocate for this podcast as well. Matt's helped me out a lot. Yeah, we like Matt.
Yeah, he's a funny dude too, you know what I mean? So
he is.
A couple of good
stories. He came to see me here in Sydney a few weeks ago.
Yeah, see, and he's kind of guy who cares about everything, you know what I mean? And he just wants to help everyone and get promoting with everything. So he's another good person that's, spoken so highly in the Thai community.
Yeah. Yeah, he really got himself a seat at the table.
Yeah. He kind of just hung around long enough for them to be like, oh, well, you're not going anywhere, so come on.
Also wanted to hear, I have picked up a little bit of your gear. I get a lot of compliments on it. Putting together some apparel with Muay Thai Life. Tell us a little bit about that project.
So there's a gym in Buriram called Watthana or Watthana. Frances and her husband, whom they kind of just went up there, they were living their life and things like that. And then Frances is just the most angelic lady that's ever graced the earth.
She's absolutely incredible.
Oh, man. And she was like, just seeing all the things in rural Thailand, trafficking of children, or, parents using their kids to move drugs and things like that, and just couldn't handle it, So she just started off with a couple of kids and they set up a little gym. It was like one bag in their backyard or whatever it was. And then next thing, the kids would go to school and then there's another person coming in like wanting to get away from their life, or they've been abused in some sort of way or whatever it is. And I got put onto them through Woody again. And I was like, I just want to try and help in any way, shape, or form, So the whole gym runs off charity, of donation through whatever can happen. So I made this cool brand, you know what I mean? Everyone loves it. They're like, people, like you said, we're having the conversation. I was like, it comes with a compliment guarantee.
I do get a lot of compliments from my Muay Thai Life shirts. I have a couple and I always get questions about it. It's cool.
And so what I've done is I've made the price tag is they get 80% of the profit. So it's like just my way of trying to help in some sort of thing. And I was like, and then it was really, really cool. I met a lady out here who was like some huge superstar, famous person in the UK, Kaz Crosley. She's on like Love Island and all this other stuff. And she's half Thai, half English. And I showed her what I was doing. And then she just went, mate, this is insane. She actually went up there because she could speak Thai and all things like that, and became like the head ambassador for them and raised, I think it was £300,000.
Oh, that's so sick.
And like that, she's the reason that they got the new house built and the new gym. And I was the one that put her onto it. So I was like, this is amazing. I just feel like I'm doing some sort of good while I'm out here as well.
Love that.
And it was just, once I made the brand, I was like, I could do this for myself and try and make some money and all that thing. And then I was like, why not try and do some sort of good with it? So every month, like after we have our sales, we just send our donation over to them. And, like it makes me feel like I'm doing some sort of good while I'm here as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll put like some links in the description and stuff. Like the kit's really good. It's really good quality and it's real cool looking as well. So if you want to get yourself some, help out a good cause, it's
that's right. You get to look good and you do something well. You do something good with it.
There's no downside here.
There is no downside. Comes with a compliment guarantee.
Compliment guarantee. So if you're in need of a compliment, I'm sure many of you are. All right, so we're around about coming up to the hour. If people want to come and train, if they want to follow up with what the gym's doing, what is the best place to find you guys?
Just through Instagram. Instagram's the easiest one, at Powerhouse Phuket. It's always monitored as well. Like we have a lady that's on there all day, every day. So if you're a fighter and things like that, you want to come out, let us know what your intentions are. And like I said, if you're just here for a holiday, even better.
Yeah, nice.
Such a good time, such good atmosphere. And, like I said, it's a lot easier to communicate with people that have a native English tongue. But just Powerhouse Phuket on Instagram, Facebook's there and stuff as well.
Perfect. And any sponsors helping keep the dream alive that you want to give a shout out to while we're still on?
We're kind of, because we're in that phase of moving. We've moved on from our current sponsors as well. But we have a really cool announcement coming up actually with the opening of the new gym of who our main sponsor is going to be.
Oh,
but
cool.
I don't know if I can say it just yet, so I better not.
Okay, well, we'll get the episode out and then we'll kind of follow. We'll give that a share on social media when we can.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, Sammy, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate you stopping by for a chat. I'm hoping to make it back to Thailand pretty soon, so hopefully I can stop by Powerhouse for a session.
Awesome.
Maybe jump in and have a crack while I'm there would be good.
Yeah, for sure. We'd love to have you, man.
Yeah, I've never actually been to Phuket. I've been in Thailand 2 or 3 months trips, but I've never been to Phuket yet. So
what? Not even on a holiday?
No.
That's insane. Like, and that's part of the kind of the stigma as well. Everyone's like, oh, if you go to Thailand to train, you have to go to Bangkok. So you can't go to Phuket. That's like a fucking holiday place, or So Phuket's bringing out some of the best fighters ever now.
Yeah, 100%. Like a lot of tides are turning in Thailand Muay Thai in general, and like perception is hard to move. Like that initial perception is hard to move beyond, but a lot of these widely held beliefs about different places, or
like I call them the founding fathers of Aussie Muay Thai. Like Parnham, Pinky, Miller, all those boys are like 5-10 years ago, they're like, no, when we're going on our gym trip, we're only going to Bangkok, or we're only going. And now they're like, oh, we'll come to your gym. Like everyone looks like you got good fighters and stuff.
Yeah,
So
the game's changing.
Yeah, so we got beaches and shit, man. You're gonna be in Bangkok, fucking just stuck in the city all day.
Man, Bangkok is cool for sure, but like,
I was just like, man, why? If you come to Thailand, you want to be on a beach, So I was like, we've got the best of both worlds.
absolutely. So yeah, if you're looking for a trip to Thailand, consider Powerhouse Phuket. As Sam said, you can catch them on Instagram or Facebook. Keep an eye on their next big move, because I'm sure big things are on the way from the team. Thank you once again, Sam, for joining us. Looking forward to keeping up with what you've got going on over there.
Thank you, mate. Been an honor. Cheers.
Take care.